Okay, guys. So Shavua Tov, everybody. Happy New Kislev. So I know it's not Hebrew, but Kislev. That you kiss the lev, the heart. So at the Shem this month, we're going to be able to kiss our hearts. Yeah. And to connect to the truth, which is what we're going to speak about tonight. The concept of truth. We're learning in this week's Parsha that's coming up, and this past Parsha, about a figure whose name was Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov Avinu had a very unique life in that from the beginning of his life, even to before he was brought into the world, even in the womb, he already had tremendous opposition. That he was a twin and he struggled with his twin brother. And that was even before he came into the physical world. And throughout his whole entire life, he struggled with tremendous trials and tribulations from many different fronts, whether it was from his father-in-law, whether it was from his wives, whether it was from his children, whether it was from his brother. And the list goes on and on and on. And at the same time, we know that we're named after him. We're called Bnei Yaakov. And like we've spoken about in the past, to be Bnei, to be the son of somebody, or to be a bat in the Torah, does not just mean that you are the physical son of that person. It means that you share the same essence. So the fact that we're Bnei Yaakov, it means that we are each a bechina of Yaakov. We are, so to speak, little miniature Yaakovs. And we know that even though Yaakov was the last of the avot, of the forefathers, he's called the choice of the three. Why is he called the choice of the three? We know Avram Avinu ran after Hashem without experiencing him in his life. And he represents love. And we know that Yitzchak Avinu, he was very much to himself. He spent a lot of time praying to Hashem. He represents avoda or tefillah. And then you have Yaakov Avinu, where the Torah teaches, give emet to Yaakov, give truth to Yaakov. That the entire essence of Yaakov Avinu is truth. That means that your essence is truth. And in fact, in the teachings of Kabbalah, it's taught that the soul of every Jewish man and woman is called Torah. Your soul is called Torah. This is the reason why there's 600,000 letters in the Torah, and there are 600,000 root souls. So that means that if you exist in the world and you're Jewish, you have a connection to one of the letters in the Torah, and you are connected to one of those 600,000 root souls. And that part of you, which is your soul, is called Torah. It's called Yaakov. In the Tanya, it's brought down that according to Kabbalah, according to Zohar, like let's say, for instance, if you ever looked at an ocean, they have something called fractals. That means that they, like with a microscopic lens, they're able to look deeply into the water molecules, and they're able to keep going deeper and deeper within the water itself and to look at the innermost part of the water. And every time you get to like the center of the water, so to speak, from that perspective, then if you go down, you see a brand new world, and you go down to the middle of that one, and it doesn't end. You can watch it on YouTube. Just, I don't know, one of my students sent it to us. But you just see it kind of like going down a rabbit hole. It never actually stops, okay? And what's that middle point that it keeps getting to in the water? According to Kabbalah, it's called truth. Because whenever you get to the middle of anything, whenever you get to the essence of anything, you're going to find the truth. And what's the reason? Because Hashem created everything b'chokhmah. Everything created by Hashem was with truth, was with wisdom. What does that mean? It doesn't just mean that Hashem had wisdom in creating the thing. It means that the essence of that thing, if you can find it, is called its chokhmah, it's called its point of truth. So too within yourself, for you to find Hashem, you need to find the point of truth within yourself. That's the point that's called Yaakov. However, we learn from Yaakov's life to get to that point, no pun intended, is a tremendously difficult arduous process. How many people here can safely say and admit to themselves, I feel like I found my truth? Anybody want to raise their hand and say, I feel like I found my truth? Okay, that's good. Either you're not raising your hand because you're shy, or I'm hoping you're not raising your hand because you're being honest. And if that's the case, then we can all know why we do not feel Hashem in our lives. Because Hashem is the truth. The Midrash says that what is Hashem's signature? You know, like the president, he takes like an hour to write his signature, and he ends up writing just like 2 letters in like cursive, you can't understand it. Hashem also does that on everything. You have his signature, you have his signature, the table has his signature, the book has his signature. Everything in the physical world has Hashem's signature. And the Midrash says, what is that signature? Emet, truth. So Hashem is in everything, but to find it, you're going to have to find the truth of that thing. And for you to find Hashem in your own personal life, you need to have and find your own truth. But like Yaakov Avinu, the ability to find your own truth means that you need to have opposition. Rabbi Nachman says that there are times when a person goes through many things in their life, many difficulties, trials, and tribulations, and the people around them maybe don't support them, don't encourage them. They don't give them that love that they're looking for. And Rabbi Nachman says, what's the reason Hashem is doing that to that person? Because he says that there is a point of truth in that person, and he is not willing to go find that thing. And the only way for that truth to come out is when other people reject it. Do people understand what we're saying right now? By having everybody around you reject the truth you haven't even found yet, it actually causes you to have the inspiration, to have the desperation to go find it because you're not happy, because you don't feel right, because something feels off. Yaakov is the truth. And as soon as he's born, even before he's born, he has a twin brother called Esav. Esav at every single moment is trying to derail Yaakov. He's trying to cover over Yaakov and to conceal Yaakov, because Esav represents sheker, a lie. So instead of thinking about Yaakov and Esav just as two individuals who were twin brothers, we can now begin to understand that the point inside of you, which is called your truth, which is where Hashem is called Yaakov. And for that person or that thing to come out and to flourish and to reveal itself, it needs to constantly be barraged and confronted by Esav, lies. Lies. Those lies can be as big as societal lies, and those lies can be as unique and as personal as your own personal lies, which you're not willing to give up on. All of those lies are called Esav. Rabbi Nachman says, and Rav Natan gives over famously, Rabbi Nachman used to say, what's the difference between truth and sheker? What's the difference between emet, truth, sheker, lie? The Torah teaches, and Rabbi Nachman says, because there's only one truth and there's many lies. There's only one truth and there's many lies. And this is the essential difference. I want to teach you in the word itself, emet, truth, how you can find that point of Yaakov, that point of truth inside of you. You can hold on to it, you can give birth to it, and it will bring you joy. Because Rabbi Nachman says the key to simcha, to joy, is truth. So therefore, simcha is dependent on Yaakov. Happiness is dependent on truth. When we receive the Torah on Simcha Torah, right? It's the happiest day of the whole year. We call it Simcha Torah. We think, why? Because it's like we got the Torah anew. Or maybe it's because the concept of Torah truth is Simcha. That is, whenever you find Torah, whenever you find your truth, you automatically find Simcha. You automatically find joy. And I want to compare the two names. There's going to be a few chidushim in here, so just try to follow my train of thought, okay? This came up through my Hibodedut, Bezrat Hashem. hopefully the message will given over to you in a way that you can take these ideas and to bring them with you in your life. Because ultimately, the way that these teachings transform your life is when you actually bring them in and actualize them, when you work to do so. Obviously, in the Jewish world, in the religious world, the concept of Talmud Torah, learning Torah, is at a premium. Obviously, if you're in the traditional world, it's the whole world. If you're in the Hasidic world, it's a part of the world. But there's no Jewish branch, there's no expression of Torah, of Judaism, that is not revolving and centered around truth. Rabbi Nachman himself says, and this is a good prelude, that faith is dependent on truth. That even though everybody knows that Rabbi Nachman's whole thing is emunah, his whole entire mission was faith, he says explicitly that faith is dependent on truth. So no matter how you slice it and dice it, Yaakov is the foundation. Truth is the foundation. And we actually see this clearly with the Orach Chaim in this week's Parsha. And that is that Yaakov Avinu has a dream. And this is the month of dreams, by the way, just so you know. That in this month of Kislev, Rav Yitzhak Ginsburg explains that there's a certain amount of dreams that are given down in the Torah explicitly. I believe that there's 8. And 6 of those 8 dreams all come about in Parshas in this month. And for this reason, Chazal, and specifically the Hasidic masters and the Kabbalists, say that Kislev is the month of dreams. Whether it's Yosef HaTzaddik's dreams, or Yaakov Avinu's dream, this week's Parsha with the Sulam, with the ladder. This is the month of dreams. Chanukah. Yaakov in this week's Parsha, he was running to Hashem. He was running away from the difficulties in his life, things that were trying to get him, that were out to get him, and he ran towards Hashem. And he ended up having a dream. And in the dream, there was a ladder, a sulam. That ladder was on the ground and it touched all the way to Shemaim. And the Torah has a very interesting language there because it said that Hashem was standing on him. And all of the rabbis and all the sages have a difficulty with the pasuk, with the verse. Meaning, what does it mean that Hashem was standing on him? Does it mean he was standing on the ladder? Does it mean he was standing on Yaakov? So the answer is both. But we're going to go with the second one right now. Why is Yaakov the only one of the forefathers that it said that Hashem stood on him? It didn't say that he stood on Abraham. It didn't say he stood on Yitzchak. He stood on Yaakov. Meaning that the foundation of Hashem is truth. And the Torah is teaching that if you want to know where Hashem is, he's standing on Yaakov always. He's standing on the truth. And I want to show you in the word emet, truth, many truths. And from these many truths in the word emet itself, we could start to have a new understanding of what is the Torah's concept of truth and how to bring it into our life. Obviously, there's a concept of learning Torah, which we'll get to. But I want to bring different elements. The first element of truth is what we just said. That Rabbi Nachman said that the truth of reality is one and not many. And that's in the Aleph. In the word Emet, the first letter of the whole Torah is Aleph. Aleph in Chassidut and Kabbalah has the gematria 1. What's the concept of 1 in the Torah? 1 does not mean one as opposed to another. 1 means complete oneness, complete unity, echad. When we say that Hashem echad, that Hashem is one, we don't just mean that there's one God versus another God. We mean that everything is God, that everything is Hashem. It's not that we're here and Hashem is up there, but kivyachol, so to speak, we are all living in the world of what's called Hashem. That he's allowing us to have a space within himself to experience him. That is Hashem echad. Hashem is one. Not Rishon, not he's the first one. He's echad. He's the only one. And not the only one as opposed to other gods, but he's the only thing that there actually is. And everything in the physical world is merely clothing for him. Meaning that when you go through things in your life, you have a challenge in your life, you have a struggle in your life. There's one way to look at that situation. That is through the lie of the realm of sheker, or that is through the realm of emet. Through the realm of sheker, you take things at face value. That is that my problem is face value. The problem is that there is a virus in this world, and that's the end of it. It started out of nowhere. It's going to end out of nowhere. It exists in and of itself in a vacuum. I have an issue with my spouse. I think it just happens to be that I picked this person and they picked me and we have these issues. Or I have my parents and my parents are giving me troubles and difficulties. And it's because they grew up in this place with this culture and X, Y, and Z. And all those things may be true, but they're not the truth of truths. The truth of truths is one. What does it mean that it's one? It means that while it may be true that you have a problem, the real problem begins and ends with Hashem. Hashem is the cause of this reality, not the spouse, not the parent, not society. Hashem is the cause of reality because everything is echad, everything is one. The root ability for a person to connect to the truth of the Torah is to first understand that everything is one. Because if you do not have that as your fundamental point of origin, then what happens is you miss the truth all the time. And you don't realize that everything is another opportunity for you to get closer to Hashem because you are chalking off what's happening to people, places, and things. So how do I connect to Emet, to Yaakov, to truth? You need to first start with Echad. That means that everything is one. So when something happens in your life, you need to say to yourself, not just this thing is happening, I have to go deal with it, but to first say to yourself, this is from Hashem. And if you don't start with this is from Hashem, you're automatically going to come to the wrong conclusion. Does anybody know why? Because Hashem Echad. Because Hashem is one. There is nothing which exists out of the realm of Hashem. Chazal, the sages teach that Hashem is the place of the world. What does it mean that Hashem is the place of the world? It means that if you don't start with the fact that Hashem is here, you're actually not in any place. The beginning of being in a real place is to start with the fact that Hashem is here. And if you do not start with the fact that Hashem is here, you're already at a place. And that's Echad. How many people here had a rough Sunday? Good. How old are you? 10. Very good. Who else? More hands? Nobody? You guys had great Sundays? Thank God. You just don't want to raise your hands, huh? We have the mechitza. Everybody close your eyes for a second. Let's see. I have a lot of smiles. Some people are writhing their hands in their pockets, wanting to take it out. I would guess I would have to venture, considering we're in Olam Hazeh, at the end of the exile, waiting for Mashiach to come, everybody had a rough Sunday. If I had to bet my money on it, okay? What's the reason? The reason is not because something is wrong. The reason is because we removed Echad. That we think that a God exists somewhere, and then I have my life. And these two things don't coexist. Sometimes there's Hashem, sometimes there's my life. Sometimes there's the Torah, but then there's work. But then there's spirituality. But then there's marriage. And then there's homework. Good. And then there's homework. And then there's the teachings of Breslov. But then there's like, I have to go eat food. And we create this dichotomy. We create this chasm. We create, I'm trying to look for a simple word. We create this, yes, like a split, we live like we have split personalities. Like we're schizophrenic. Oh yeah, 100% Hashem. But like, okay, Hashem, let's save that stuff for later. Let's just figure this thing out, and then we'll get back to Hashem. Okay? But that's actually the cause of the suffering. Because if you don't start with the fact that Hashem is causing what's happening, you automatically are not connecting to the emet of that situation, to the truth of that situation. It doesn't mean there's not a practical element to the solution. There could be a practical element to the solution. But it has to start with the fact that Hashem is the cause. And if you don't start there, you can't find the truth. And if you can't find the truth, you can't find simcha. You can't find happiness. That is echad. But in Esav's name, you see, it doesn't start with an aleph. It starts with a letter that sounds exactly like it, and that's an ayin. And if you use it in different words, it can be used exactly the same way. It's the same sound, possibly, unless you're Yemenite and you literally say it from the throat. Okay? However, ayin is very different from aleph. Do you know why? If you spell the word or, which is light, which is the root of the word Torah, the root, the shorish of the word Torah is or, light. How do you spell or? Aleph, Hashem, Vav, Resh. However, we know, according to the Midrashim, that Adam and Chava, the first two people who were conscious in the world, they had bodies of light. Or. They didn't look like we do. And then ultimately, after they forgot that Hashem echad, that Hashem is one, they removed Hashem from a part of their life and they made a decision as if he wasn't there. What ended up happening, the Torah said they then got or, but not the same or as they had before with an aleph or with an ayin. Ayin vav resh, not aleph vav resh. What's ayin vav resh spell? What is or with an ayin? Skin, hide, flesh. What's the difference between light and skin or flesh? One of them reveals and one of them conceals. Light reveals and skin or flesh or body or physical world conceals. Everybody with me on that little analogy? So that means that when you look at a situation in your life and you take it at face value based on the skin, based on the body of it, what it looks like, you're connecting to ayin, Esav, the skin, the flesh, the outside, the body. But you're not connecting to the soul of that thing, which is the aleph. The ayin is the gematria 70. We know that according to Chassidut and Kabbalah, there are, so to speak, 70 types of wisdoms and also 70 types of lies. But there is one aleph. There's one truth. To get to the one truth, you need to be able to see through the 70 lies. We're going to get to how you do that in a second. But the basic premise is the truth is spiritual. The truth is inner. The truth begins with Hashem. And if you do not say to yourself before you start to think about what's happening in your life, this is from Hashem, you're automatically going to come out to the wrong conclusion. It's my wife's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my kid's fault. It's my fault. It's society's fault. It's this and that and this and that. And you are neglecting one very important thing, and that's the beginning point of any point of truth, the aleph, Hashem. And that is not ayin. It's not flesh. You can't see it. It's an inner reality. Hashem is not physical. So all you have to do to begin to access the emet, the truth, is to simply say to yourself, this thing that's taking place right now is from Hashem. This is the best thing that could possibly be happening to me. And Hashem is only doing this to bring me closer to him. And if you say those three things out loud, you have attained the aleph of the word emet. And you can begin to think clearly. But if you don't say those three things out loud, or you don't think about those three things before you start to think, you will automatically come out with the wrong conclusion. I'll give you a practical example, okay? Let's say, for instance, you get in a situation and the situation entails that you get fired from work. Okay, you get laid off work. So on paper, this is just bad, right? The ayin, the flesh, the skin of this event is it's bad. How could it be good to get laid off from work? You're making parnasa, which you need to support yourself. You now don't have it. You're trying to build some type of career or some type of path in your life, and now you're not. You had worked in investing time and effort in this thing, and now it's, so to speak, as if you never did it. So there's nothing good here. That's all based on what things look like. However, if you look at any person who's achieved tremendous success in their life, occupationally, the beginning of that success was a failure somewhere else. Meaning they tried to make it work this way, they ended up getting fired from that way, and they had to come up with a new creative way. And that new creative way was actually the whole key to them achieving such a high level of success that has never been seen before. But if they would have held on to their measly 9-to-5 job, they never would have had to look for a deeper truth, something different, something which was not fitting in the box. Because as long as you're in the box, you don't have to find something outside of the box. How can a person mobilize themselves, motivate themselves to look for that job when they get fired from their original job? Only if they first start by saying to themselves, this is from Hashem. I didn't get fired because my boss is a hole. I got fired because Hashem wanted me to. Why would Hashem want me to get fired? Because this is the best thing that could happen to me. But it doesn't feel like that. So how could this be the best thing that's happening to me? Because it's in order that I should get closer to Him. And closeness to Hashem is the only good that there is. Because when you're closer to Hashem, you're closer to the good. And now, with that being said, how long am I going to be laying in my bed feeling horrible about myself before I look for that next idea? You tell me. 1 second. Let's say you had a bad hour. Okay, let's say we're human beings and you have a bad hour. Half an hour, an hour. But what do we do? I would say days, maybe weeks, some people months, some people years. I know some people who have said, years ago I got fired from this job that I really liked, and I just completely spiraled out after that. I don't know what to do now. Why? The reason is one thing. They don't think it's good. And because they don't think it's good, they go into yeyush. They go into despair. And why don't they think it's good? Only for one reason. Because they don't believe it's from Hashem. Your ability to find good in your life starts with believing that everything is from Hashem. And this is the first point of emet. And what do we call this? Emunah. That means that truth, emet, is intricately connected to emunah. That if the truth that you have is not based on that emunah that we just said, that everything is from Hashem, everything is for the best, everything is to bring me closer to Him, then in fact, you're not holding on to the truth. Because truth without faith is not truth. Okay? This is the first part. This is in contrast to ayin, Esav's ayin, the skin, the flesh, what things look like. 2, what's the next part of emet? You have the mem. What is the mem, the beginning of a word for? Mikvah. What's a mikvah? He's used to going to school. Go ahead. Jumping in. Yes, very good. Very nice. Okay? It's a body of water, and it's kedusha, meaning it's something that's very holy. and you go inside of it. Very good. We have to understand what is the measure of the water that's in the mikvah in order for it to be valid. There's something called seya. A seya is a certain volume. It's a certain measure of liquid, a seya. Does anybody know how many seya have to be in a mikvah for it to be considered a mikvah? That if there's less than that, it's not a mikvah. You have one less seya, it's not a mikvah. You have to have this amount. If you don't have this amount, no matter what, it's the same water, it's the same pool, it doesn't make a difference. 40. What's the gematria of mem? 40. Mikvah, mem, 40. 40 seya. Okay? Very good. Now, what is the concept of a mikvah? Rabbi Nachman teaches that the mikvah is pure da'at. Pure da'at. What does pure da'at mean? The highest level of truth. The highest level of truth is called mikvah. Where do we learn this from in the Torah? Is there any figure in the entire Torah who's connected to truth who starts out in water? Moshe. Also starts with a mem. Moshe. Who's Moshe? Moshe is the one who gave us the Torah, who revealed the whole truth to the Jewish people. Yeah? He's the other figure beside Yaakov Avinu who's the most connected to truth. And I want to teach you something amazing. Why was his name Moshe? Why was his name Moshe? In fact, that was not the name he was born with. His Hebrew name was Tuvia when he was born. I don't know if anybody knows that. His name was Tuvia. Good. So we learned something new. I'm going to say I did a good job tonight. Thank God. We learned something new. However, when Batya, who was not Jewish, came and took him out of the river because of what was going on then, which was similar to the Holocaust, where you saw kids being put in non-Jewish families. It was the only way they could survive. This boy, they felt the only way he could survive was if he went down the Nile River, which was the locus of the entire city, and people were constantly going to the river for support, for sustenance, to draw from that river. And she found Moshe in the Teva. Okay? The reason his name was Moshe, the Torah literally says, because Moshe, he was drawn from the water, that she named him after the event, that because she drew him from water, she called him Moshe. But if we understand now, he wasn't just drawn from any water, he was drawn from the waters of a mikvah. Meaning that the root of his soul is that of the purest water, that of the mikvah. That in that place, there's no such thing as lack of truth. There's no dilution. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's the absolute truth of truths. Moshe is drawn from that place. He's in that water. However, it's taught in the Midrash something unbelievable. Even though it seems like the simple understanding is that Batya took Moshe from the water, and that's why it's called Moshe. The Midrash says that he draws you into the water. Meaning the entire aspect of Moshe, the mikvah, is that it draws you into it. And the whole entire power and koach of Moshe, of the mikvah, the tzaddik, is that he draws you into pure waters. Let's compare this to Esav. What's the second letter of Esav's name? Shin. Shin in Kabbalah and Chassidut represents Eish, fire. It's the letter of fire. So you have water on one hand, which is based on emet, truth, the mem, the water, the 40 seya. And then you have the shin, fire. What's the difference between water and fire? Water is liquid. Fire is? Smoke. I have another one. Do we take showers of fire or do we take showers in water? We take showers in water. Thank you. Do we take baths of fire or do we take baths of water? We take baths of water. Thank you. You must have done well in school. Just kidding. Why don't we go jump in fire? Because it hurts. It hurts. We don't want to get hurt. Do you ever notice that when you take a good shower or you take a nice bath or if you go into a mikveh, you feel better after? Do you know why that is? Because the water represents truth. And the concept of a fire or sheker or a lie is it's all consuming and it hurts. So to be connected to the truth is to be connected to water, because all of us already feel like we are on fire from the events in our life, from the frustrations of our life, from the lack of success in our life, from the lack of success in our relationships, from our own inner turmoil. That's all Aish, that's all fire. The healing to that fire is water. What else is like fire inside of us? Taiva, desire for food, desire for drink, desire for sex, desire for pleasure, desire for honor, desire for fame, desire for respect. All desires come under the realm of Aish, fire. What is it that cools down that fire so you can think clearly? Water. But not just any water. I don't know if anybody saw the movie Waterboy, but that was some high quality H2O. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the highest quality H2O. And that's the waters of the mikvah. And who is constantly sitting in that mikvah, waiting in that mikvah, drawing you into the mikvah? There's only one person. His name is Moshe. And therefore, the second element of bringing truth into your life after the concept of everything is from Hashem, how do you get to that point to believe that? You need to constantly be drawn into the mikvah of Moshe. And that is by connecting yourself to a real tzaddik. What's the difference between a tzaddik on the level of Moshe and let's say your local Google rabbi? Anybody know? He's got to be a good rabbi. So Rabbi Nachman says not enough that he's a good rabbi. How good does that rabbi have to be? Even better. Even better. And I'm going to explain to you why. It's going to make sense to you in a second. Anybody else? How good does that rabbi have to be? 10 stars. How about the best? The best. You know, some people say, I'm only going to go to my doctor if he's the best doctor. By the way, just a little joke. I heard this recently. I thought it might be funny for you guys. There was some Jewish people, you know, Jewish people love their doctors. They were sitting in the waiting room and they were talking about who has the best doctor. I actually heard this from Benjamin Weinberg over here. You get kudos for this. If they don't like this, it's your fault. It's not mine. He said, my doctor's so good, it takes hours before you can see him because you have to wait so long in the waiting room. He goes, you think your doctor's good? I can't see him for days. He goes, you think your doctor is good? My doctor's so good, I never see him. I can't even get an appointment with him. He's that good. The best. Now, I want you to think about it. What do we do when we listen to a rabbi? He's literally infiltrating every part of our being. Right? When you're learning a class, you're taking in information and you're living with it. Physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, socially, emotionally, and every other ocean and motion and Lee, okay? All of this is being affected when you're getting and you're learning from somebody. What happens if you learn from somebody who he knows a lot, but he also has self-interest like most people? Rabbi Nachman says that self-interest, even though you might think to yourself, it's very small, it's not a big deal, he's worked on it tremendously, and therefore it's like not a problem I have to deal with. The issue Rabbi Nachman says is that wherever a person is holding, that thing is entering into every piece of Torah, teaching, and advice that he gives. So that means that if his ego is involved in what he gives over to you or when he tries to help you, that means that every piece of advice he gives you is blemished. What's the problem with that? That when you go live with that, you're going to end up with the fruit of that advice. Now, if we were just trying to find out a recipe for dinner tonight, So if it doesn't go so well, okay, the chicken burnt in the oven, whatever. But these things that we're going to live with now, we're going to make life decisions on. Who am I going to marry? How am I going to stay married? How am I going to find myself? Am I going to leave this job and this entire street where I thought I was going to live my whole life and go to another place where my teacher tells me it would be better for me? So you see that the reason why it's so important not to have a good rabbi, not to have a great rabbi, but to have the best rabbi is because everything in your life is going to be influenced and affected by what he teaches you. Do you understand that? And therefore, the only teachings Rabbi Nachman says you want to be getting in your life are those from Moshe, or those who are like Moshe. And who's the one who's like Moshe? He's hovering over the water. And it says that he was a Nav Me'od. He was very humble. He was the most humble man in the world. Meaning, whatever he gave over had nothing to do with himself. How many people do we know for sure, 100%, they have no self-interest when they give over Torah? They have no self-interest when they give over advice. They have no self-interest when they're trying to whatever. You know anybody like that? Good. Okay. So if you know somebody like that, that is a good rabbi for you. And that's a mem. That's the pure waters of the mikvah. And if you don't have someone like that, then ultimately you will never find out that Hashem echad, that Hashem is one, the first point. Because what is it that nullifies your ability to see that Hashem is one? Ego. Self-interest. Okay? This is the mem. And this is as opposed to the shin of Esav. What was Esav busy running after? He wanted honor. He wanted money. He wanted women. He wanted fame. He wanted esteem. He wanted possessions. He wanted wealth. And all of those things affected his thoughts. It affected his emotions. It affected his actions. Because it is your desires that drive all of those things. So if your desire is not pure like the mikvah, then all of your thoughts, all of your emotions, all of your advice, all of your actions are also going to be blemished by that original desire. And if your desire is for fire, for something physical, for something limited, then when you learn from that person, it's hard for you to ever find your truth. Okay? What is the final aspect of emet? You have the tough. The tough is for tamimut. Does anybody know what tamimut means? No? Go with something else. Simplicity. Good. Simplicity or innocence. It says that Yaakov Avinu, who was the one who represented the truth, what does the Torah say about him? He was Ish Tam. He was Ish Tam. He was not only Tamimut, he was not only simple, he was called the simple man. The simple one. The simplest. Ish Tam. What is the Torah teaching you by telling you that Yaakov, the one who held on to the entire truth, and he gave emet to Yaakov. So he represents, so to speak, the epitome of wisdom. What allowed him to access that wisdom was the fact that he was tam, that he was simple. We know that Yaakov Avinu, while his brother was going out and hunting and trying to chase after the physical world, he was sitting in tents, learning about Hashem. Does anybody tell me how that practically makes sense? Does it practically make sense for you to be sitting and reading from books as opposed to going into the physical world and going to make jangi? Does it make sense for me to take times out of my day that instead of living in the world, I'm going to go read letters off a page and do that every day? And that this represents the essence of my life. Who's the only person who's capable of doing that? Okay, because we come from him. But what is it that allows Yaakov to do that? You guys ever see Blue's Clues? No. That's good, thank God. Okay. The hint was the quality we just spoke about. He was simple. What does it mean he was simple? He thought to himself, if everything comes from Hashem, and therefore he's the reality of the world, and the Torah is what clues you into what that is, then for him it didn't make sense to do anything else. But Esav, looking at him, said, what's wrong with you? How are you not hunting? How are you not out working? How are you not out doing? How are you not being active? And that's how you get things done. And the answer was because Yaakov was tamimut. He was simple. Who did he give birth to? 12 perfect children. He was the only one. His grandfather Avraham, one of his children was great. The other one, The other one, Yitzchak, had another child that was great. The other one, Yaakov was the only one that all of his children came out tzaddikim. What's the whole root of that? Tamimut, simplicity. And who was the essential son of Yaakov? The one who, so to speak, took what Yaakov started to build in the world, the revelation of Torah, and he became expert and brought it to every individual person. Who's the Tolda? Who is the child of Yaakov? Yosef. And what did it say about Yosef when he was young? He was Na'ar. What did it mean he was an adolescent? We know from his age. We don't need the Torah to teach you as an adolescent. Comes Rashi to teach you that he acted unusual. How did he act? Like a child. Who can act like a child even when they're an adult? Only a person who's simple. If you ever think about the times in your life that you were happiest, even now, those were the simplest times of your life. Whether it's singing your favorite song with your friend, whether it is talking to somebody else about something that's going on in your life, whether it is hanging out with a group of people, whatever it is, the greatest simcha comes when you are yourself, when you are innocent, when you are simple. However, what does the world teach you as you get older? An illusion. You need to present yourself in a certain way. What way is that? Fake. I need to act like something that I'm not. And if you don't, what happens to you? You become an outcast. What happens when you are a kid and then all of a sudden you go to middle school and you're still acting like you were in elementary school? You're bullied. Why? Because you didn't start gelling your hair up. You didn't start skipping class and doing drugs. You didn't start talking to girls in a certain way that had nothing to do with what you were actually like. And the list goes on and on and on and on. But who is the happiest person in the world? The person who is acting like he is. Tamimut. And when you are trying to connect to the truth, one of the main reasons we miss the truth in our life is because we're lying to ourselves. How are we lying to ourselves? We're pretending to be something that we're not. And then we misinterpret all the events in our life as other people hurting us or wronging us, when in fact, we just won't allow ourselves to be ourselves. And then we blame everybody for that. But what's the real issue? Is that you are not simple. And what's the reason? Because Western society is based on facade. I need to present and act like something, not like myself. You want to know the happiest person in the world? The one who acts like he did when he was younger. Doesn't mean he's immature. It doesn't mean he's not intelligent. It means he's not pretending. Because if you look at a child, you'll notice something amazing about them. Children normally are very happy. Adults normally are very unhappy. And you're going to say, why? Because they don't have stress and we do. That's not the reason why. It's because children don't even have a havamina to pretend to be something that they're not, because they don't even know that's an option. They just are. My baby girl, she's 1 year old. She just learned that she likes to be tickled. Okay? So what would most of us do? We would pretend we don't like to be tickled and hope and pray that this person tickles me. And if they don't, I'm going to hate them because they're not considerate of my feelings, even though I never told them I like it, and I pretend that I don't. What does my daughter do? Once she saw that she liked it, she proceeded every single time I finished tickling her to get up for a second and to fall back down on the floor and give me her side to tickle her. Why is she doing that? How come she doesn't pretend she doesn't like it? Because she's simple. So why is she happy? Because she's simple. Why are we unhappy? Because we're sophisticated. That's the only reason. It's the only reason. And if you are trying to find the Shem in everything, the Aleph, Echad, that everything is one, everything is from Hashem, everything is for the best, you start from that point, and the way you get to that point is connecting to the Mikvah, meaning Moshe, the tzaddik who has nothing of his own, and he only wants to bring you closer to the truth and to your truth with no vested interest of himself. And you are tamimut. You're simple. You're not trying to find it a certain way. You're just doing it. You're not trying to take the truth of life and making it what you want. You're just looking for the truth, whatever that may be. And if you do these three things, then you have emet. But we notice that Yaakov's whole life was filled with struggle, trial, and tribulation from all types of enemies. Who are his enemies? Esav, the one who represents lies. What about Lavan? Lavan, the Torah teaches that even though his skin was black, right, because he's from the Middle East, which would make sense, his skin was dark, his name was Lavan. Do you know what the name Lavan means? White. His whole epitome was that I'm a lie. I'm a gigantic lie. I'm going to say that I'm white even though I'm black. Okay? He switched the wages on Yaakov 1,000,000 times over, even though he already made an agreement. Why did he do that? And why did Yaakov keep working? Because Yaakov made a deal, and because Yaakov was simple, I have to hold on to my end of my deal. And he is wrong, and he's wronging me, but that doesn't change the fact that I still have to hold up my end of the deal. Why? Because I'm an honest person. And Lavan keeps changing my wages over and over again. Why? Because he's looking for his own personal benefit. Ego. Lavan. At the end of Yaakov's life, he finally attained peace. And what is this to teach you? That the truth only comes out in the end. The only way to find the truth for real is to wait. To go through this process we spoke about tonight, to honestly commit yourself to it, to do your best to imbue these qualities that we're speaking about. But in the end, when are you going to be for sure this is true? Only in the end. And we see it with the word truth itself, emet. That we know it's the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, it's the middle letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Meaning that the only way you actually get the whole emet is to wait until the end. What happens to us? We think we have the truth, but we don't live with it because nothing in the world is, so to speak, supporting my truth. But it can't. Because the only way your truth is going to reveal itself is at the end. So if you don't stick to it now, even when the rest of the world is not maskim to it, it doesn't support it, you never get to see your truth, that it's real. Because it only reveals itself in the end. When Yaakov was born, How was he born? Was he born after Esav or before Esav? After. The Torah teaches that Esav was almost completely out. And at the very last minute, you see Esav's hand holding onto his heel. And what does that represent in our discussion? That Yaakov, who's the truth, even though it all looks like Esav, but if you don't give up on the truth and you see your way through all the lies, then ultimately at the very end, Yaakov, the truth, is going to be hanging on the end. And it's going to reveal itself. Everybody understand what we're speaking about tonight? A little bit, somewhat. I see faces. Some faces are disturbed. Some faces are concerned. Could be gas. I don't know. Basically, the way to truth is that everything is one. Everything is from Hashem. That's the first part. That you need to have hikashrut with a real tzaddik. What does it mean, a real tzaddik? It means somebody who has nothing of his own, and he is connected deeply to the Torah. And lastly, you need to be tamimut. You need to allow yourself to be yourself and to stop pretending you're something else. Because as long as you pretend you're something different than you are, you're never going to find the truth. Because the truth is connected to your real self. So if you're hiding that real self or pretending to be something that you're not, you're never going to find the truth. Any questions from tonight's lesson? Yes?
So we find the truth in the end. Is it the end of the lifetime or the end of the tribulation?
The end of the process. The end of the process, you find the truth. Doesn't mean you're not holding on to it in the meantime. It just means it doesn't reveal itself openly until the end.
How long the process will take?
Depends on the person. Depends on the person.
When you say the end, you don't mean the end of the lifetime. The end of this process.
The end of the process. For some people, that could be a few years. For some people, that could be a few months. For some people, that could be a lifetime. For some people, that could be multiple lifetimes. For some people, that could be from the beginning of existence until the end. But the truth is always in the end. And how do we know that that's what's ultimately going to come out? Because Rabbi Nachman says, because the truth is one, so what's the epitome of one? That it's always. That means that a lie is not like that. It's not always. So at some point, the lie is going to fall. Because it's not always, at some point, it's going to have to reveal that it's not real. It's going to have to reveal that it's not true. Because it's not always. So if you wait long enough, the lie is automatically going to break. Where do we see this in our lives? Different movements in society. That you had a time period that people believed in many gods. That was a long time. That went away. Why did that go away? Because not true. There was a time that we believed that the highest value was beauty. Greece. It went away. Why did it go away? Because not true. We had Germany that came up and Hitler rose and he said that the entire truth is the fact that we're all animals and that the Jewish people made up a thing called that we're conscientious people, that we have consciousness, that we have morality. The Jews made this up in their Torah. We're not really moral. We just convinced ourselves that we are. And if we can let this lie go, then we can finally be happy and function. What ended up happening? He disappeared from the world along with his entire thought process. Why? Because it wasn't true. What happened to Freud that he said that we're all sex-crazed monkeys and that we really all want to be intimate with our parents and that's the driving force in everything in our life? So that went away. Why? Because not true. But when these people were alive and they gave this truth over, the whole world was convinced. Who was the person who got to see the truth? The one who never gave up on it. The one who wasn't intimidated by the lies. The Torah is the only thing that's ever been from the beginning to the end. The Jewish people are the only thing in the world that's never gone away. That's always been here. Why do the Jewish people never go away? People think it's because we're strong, it's because we're courageous, it's because we're resilient. It's all real, that's all true. But the reason is because the Jewish people are called Yisrael. We're called Yaakov. We are the truth of the world. And the truth of the world, no matter what happens to us, we can never go away because the truth never ends. It never begins and it never ends. It always is. So we must always be here, no matter what happens to us. And what's the proof? We have. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
In the beginning, you said the part about like you know everything is from Hashem and like no body exists. But let's say you don't know Hashem and you don't want it. So how does that happen?
Okay, good. So the question was for the people who are trying to listen and they don't hear. Question was, it seems like I'm saying that if you know that it's from Hashem, then it won't bother you. But what if you do know it's from Hashem, but you don't like what happened, so it does bother you? Okay. So it's not just believing that it's from Hashem. It's believing that it's from Hashem, and everything that Hashem does is the absolute best thing that could happen to you. Those things are interconnected. So that means if you just think it's from Hashem, but you don't also think that what he's doing is the best thing for you, then obviously you're going to be sorely disappointed. Make sense? Okay. And if you don't, which is fine and normal, which was me for a long time, so what would I do? I would go in my hippo to do, I say to Hashem, Hashem, please, you're making me realize that it is all from you. But I don't feel that anything that's happening in my life is good. And therefore, Hashem, please help me to believe not only that everything comes from you, but that everything you do is for my absolute best. And to say that every day and to mean it. That's a great prayer. Yes. Good question. I think I understand. Only through telekinesis. I think I just said the wrong word. Telepathy. Sorry. So the question asked was in the concept of choice. I think they missed the class, right? Okay. In the concept of choice, do you know if it's Hashem that's choosing, like you make a choice and then he's choosing through you? How do you know? Right, good question. Very good question. This is a question that comes up all the time. How do I know if the choice I'm making is the right choice? So in the world of sophistication, in the world of Esav, you don't know, and your decisions will haunt you the rest of your life. And you will constantly think about what could have, what should have, what needed to been. However, there is a world of Yaakov. And that is, it's not about making the right choice, it's about choosing Hashem. What does that mean? It means we think I have to find the right spouse. And if I don't find the exact right person, it means my life is going up in flames because I chose the wrong one. And now I have to spend time dealing with lawyers and divorce strategies to find the right one. And you see that the majority of people are involved in this endeavor, okay? What's the issue? The issue is that whoever you married is the right one. So it's not about finding the right one, because automatically the Torah teaches whoever you married, that is your zivug. So if that's your zivug, then it's not about choosing the right person, it's about including Hashem in your relationship. As an example, for instance, Lahavdil, my wife is Israeli, and she's Sephardic, and she grew up Dati, believing in Hashem. I am Ashkenazi, I grew up secular, and we have completely different ways of conceiving life. We have different opinions about almost everything. We have different ways of seeing almost everything. We feel different about almost everything. Now, on paper, if I didn't believe the things that I was telling you, chas v'shalom, we shouldn't be together. Why? Because that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to have a relationship with a person who thinks, feels, and acts completely different than you in every single way. But if you realize 100% that whoever you're married to is exactly who Hashem wants you to be, then the issue is not the fact that we're different. It's about how do we find harmony, right? Like if, for instance, obviously this is hard now because we are not settled on what our gender is. But there was a long time that if you were a woman or a man, you knew that that was it. I'm stuck, right? Just for the sake of, I know we're in a different space in the world right now, but imagine it was not like this for a long time. And every day you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not a man. I'm not a man. It's a mistake. Or a man says, that Barbie doll, that long flowing hair, it could have been, and it wasn't. And now my whole world is horrible. So what's going to happen to that person? He's not going to function because he's constantly going to be living in doubt about who they are. But if they know they have to be a man or they have to be a woman, and it's the best thing for them because that's the way that it is, then the question no longer becomes, it could have been, it should have been, it would have been. It's just about how do I live the best life as a man or a woman? Does everybody understand that? So to a marriage, if you're not thinking about who I could have and should have and would have, and you instead think just like that, this is my wife, this is my husband, this is exactly what it's supposed to be. Now the whole problem solving becomes different because not about how do I get out, it's about how do I figure it out. Because I'm not going anywhere. She's not going anywhere because this is what it's supposed to be. Just like I was born a man and she was born a woman. Does everybody understand the analogy? But if you live in a space of coulda, woulda, shoulda, you literally can have the worst relationship in the whole world for the rest of your relationship. Only because of this one coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm saying that what makes things work out is not you making the right choice. Something can work out or not work out, and it all depends with how much you include Hashem in that. If you include Hashem in a relationship that on paper doesn't make sense, that could be the most amazing relationship in the world. If you don't include Hashem in a relationship where the guy and the girl are exactly the same, they feel the same way, they think the same way, they act the same way, that relationship can end up in flames in a few months. Why? On paper, they're a perfect match. But Hashem's not there. So it's not about making the right choice, it's about choosing Hashem. So for instance, for me, I don't think to myself, and I never thought to myself, if I made the right choice by marrying this person. My only thought process was, Hashem, please help me to make this relationship work. And because I thought like that, we are. But if we didn't think like that, we wouldn't. I can't tell you how many relationships I've started in this community that I've gotten phone calls in the very beginning that automatically after a few weeks or a few months, they each say, I married the wrong person. Why? Because nobody on paper is going to feel like the right person when you start living with another human being who's completely different than you. I don't know, it's like a frog and a giraffe. They would come into the same apartment, and after a few days or weeks, the giraffe's like, this frog's neck is not very long. And the giraffe, the frog is saying, wow, this giraffe is full of himself. He's constantly, his head's in the clouds. I probably picked the wrong person. Or maybe you just married a giraffe and the giraffe married a frog, and you guys are going to have to find commonplace. Like what? That you're both part of the animal species. Yeah? And you both like it to be outside together, right? And you find commonalities. And you give birth to the giraffe frog. And then, you include Hashem in that as well. Everybody likes bedtime stories. Anybody else? Any other questions? I think there's a couple questions here. You want to just get one question here? How do we find out what our real self is? Oh, hibodedut. That's the only answer. The only way to know who you really are is to have a time every single day that you are not overcome by voices besides your own, that you're not overcome by stimulus or outside noise or outside influences. And you have a time every day that you can be by yourself and ask Hashem, who am I really? When do I feel actually happy? When do I feel like myself? If you ask yourself that question honestly, you will get an answer. Now, you might be scared of what that answer is, but your ability to be happy is dependent on you actually being that thing that you find out. Like, for instance, someone like me, right? I like to have fun. If I'm not having fun, I get very bored. And if I get very bored, I start to feel very sad. So what do? I have to always be having fun. What does it mean to always be having fun? It means when I'm in my car, I can't just be sitting and driving. I have to listen to music and sing and dance at the top of my lungs. Now, let's say I do that. It's going to look weird. The guy next to me is going to be sitting at the traffic light with me and looking at me and seeing me screaming at the top of my lungs. What's wrong with this person? So either I can not and look normal and be sad and angry and confused and have no energy, or for 5 minutes in my car to work, I could just go scream at the top of my lungs and then go be happy the rest of the day. So what gives you the strength to do the second option when it doesn't look normal? Only if you do hibodedut every day. There's no other way, because you don't know who you are and you haven't figured out who you are and you haven't thought about who you are. You're too busy being like everybody else. Being alone with yourself and actually talking. Alone is good, but alone is also lonely. Hibodedut means to be alone, and he says, what's the best way to spend that time? Talking. Talking. Say, who am I? What makes me happy? When do I feel whole? When do I feel connected? When do I feel joyful? You're going to have answers that pop up in your head. Then your only decision is, am I going to move forward with those things? Or am I going to keep suppressing them and then blaming my parents and my friends and my family for the fact that I'm not happy? I can't change it. I am a Breslover Chassid. I love Rabbi Nachman. I love Rabbi Nachman's Torah. I love everything about what he teaches. I feel that it's all true. I love his students. I love hanging out with his students. I love going to Uman. I love being with real, genuine people who are looking for the truth, who like to have fun, who are normal, who are simple, who are not overly complicated or sophisticated. That makes me happy. Every time that I'm not doing that, I'm miserable. Every time I'm doing that, I'm happy. And when I listen to other people tell me, but it's extreme, it's different, it's not normal, okay. And I tried it the other way. And I was very depressed. So I had to make a hard choice to be myself. And once you allow yourself to, you come out of the Breslov closet. Yep, Breslov Lives Matter. You guys heard about the movement? Coined one of my students. I use it all the time, by the way. So now I can be happy and I have to stop worrying. I don't have to keep worrying about what other people think, because I just say, this is what I am. This is who I am. And now everybody else has permission to do the same thing, just to be themselves. Whether that's a person who learns all day, whether that's a person who prays in the field all day, whether that's a person who does both, whether it's a person who likes to work, whatever it is, that you're yourself. Your ability to be yourself is predicated and dependent on your ability to be alone every day for a period of time and to talk to Hashem about who that person is inside of you. and not to be scared of what you figure out. Even and especially if your parents don't agree with that. Your friends don't agree with that. Your family doesn't agree with that. In the end, what does everybody who care about you really want? That you're happy. Now, they might think that the path to happiness is something that doesn't make you happy, but that's not because they're bad people. It's because they have a different idea of what makes a person happy. But you're not them, you're somebody else. So you have to go find what makes you happy. And then you have to do the hard part. You have to allow yourself to actually do that thing, to be that person. It's not just about finding out who that is. It's allowing yourself the permission and being courageous enough to actually go be that thing. And if you can allow yourself to do it, you will find tremendous, tremendous joy, and you will connect to truth. And what the litmus test is, am I being sophisticated? If you're being sophisticated on your path to joy, it can't be true. It can't really be you, because sophisticated means you're pretending to be something else. Make sense? Okay. Everybody have an amazing night. I want to make one last statement, okay? As you guys know, and we speak about this constantly, we have a lot of plans. Some of those plans we made known to you. Some of them we haven't made known to you. We need more financial help. We have an idea, and we're going to start writing a campaign. The campaign goes like this: $1 a day. $1 a day. Now, for a person, that might not be a lot. It might not be anything. You might spend $1 just in tzedakah before you pray in the morning. You might spend $1 just when you go to the kosher 7-Eleven over here and you get the extra size Slurpee instead of a large Slurpee. You might spend an extra $1 on mamish nothing. You don't even remember what you spent $1 on. I ask that every single student of Tzion, anybody who feels that they have gotten from these classes and wants to see this go bigger and greater and expand, and that we're able to do more. For example, we're in the process of brainstorming to write our first book. For us to write that book, we're going to need time. To have time, we're going to need money. Okay? So if there's time, and there's money, then I could sit down and I don't have to worry about how I'm going to make it to the next day for Tzion. One thing that we came up with is if everybody gives $1 a day, what would that look like? $30 a month. But you don't have to think about that. It's $1 a day. We're going to give out tzedakah boxes with our logo on it. You can take it for yourself. Just stick in $1 every day. Okay? You give them out to your friends, $1 every day. For you, it may not be a lot. For our organization, it would make all the difference in the world right now. Okay? Therefore, I ask that you tell people about our campaign. $1 a day keeps the doctor away. Okay? You guys know that I am allergic to the word money. You guys know that I hate speaking about this and I squirm every single time. However, in the end, the ability for us to hire people who can feel peace of mind in supporting their family, and they're not like as crazy as I am, leaving behind everything in their life to do this without a set job. Not everybody has that same level of, I can do that. They have wives, they have kids, they have husbands, they have, stuff. So they need financial support, okay? If every single person here, including all the other students of Tzion, decide to give $30 a month to Tzion, that's $1 a day, you literally would make our organization stable financially. And we could do many things that we haven't been able to do because we're constantly trying to figure out how we can just bring in money. This one thing alone would make us stable and able to do many different things. Traveling, entering into new realms of teaching, getting into different fields, writing books, and the list goes on, making documentaries and movies and videos. We have endless plans. All these plans can only happen if we're not worried about how we're going to make it at the end of the month. Okay, everybody with me? You guys don't look excited. Nobody's excited. Okay? $1 a day. Can you guys help? Do you guys feel like you've had something from the classes? Do you feel like there's something real here, something genuine here, something encouraging here, something hopeful here, something real? If you do, please, $1 a day. So that's a $30 a month. And you would just put into Tzion a monthly reoccurring $30 thing. And that way, at the beginning of every month, $30 comes out. Or you do the $1 a day in the tzedakah box. That's it. Okay? If you could get your friends and family and explain to them that we're an organization that's trying to go beyond boundaries. We're not trying to stick with one little tiny population. We're trying to open this up to the whole world. Okay? That means we need a lot more resources. This is not a big deal. This is a very small deal. Think about how much money you spend in a week. It's probably a good idea anyway, because you probably waste half of it. Take $1 out of that and use it for the best cause in the world, to spread the truth in the world, to spread emet in the world, to spread echad, unity in the world, to spread the mikvah. The Rabbi Nachman said, I am a mikvah, and I'm going to bring you into me, and I'm going to pure you of all impurities and clean you of all stains, and to give tamimut, to give permission to be simple, to be honest, to be themselves, to be happy, to be genuine, to be joyful. The world is dying for this, okay? $30 a month, every month, please, I beg you. It is the best form of tzedakah in the world. This is going to Rabbi Nachman. This is going towards the truth of truths. And you all know that we need it. We need it, okay? It would be so nice if we don't have to speak about this anymore. You don't know. We could just teach and learn and have fun and go on trips. I want to make retreats, that we have Hibodedut retreats, and that we have like meditation retreats. I have a lot of stuff I want to do. I have a background in it. I was licensed in it. I went to school for it. I'm capable of it. We just do not have financial resources. And if everybody can just give $30 a month, $1 a day, you literally would make the financial viability of the company so solid, and we can just start to make moves. Okay? Everybody with me? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so when you're done with this, please send an email to tzionbreslovproject@gmail.com, or please call our treasurer. Her name is Sarah London. She's the one head of our finances. Okay, if you need her information, please reach out to us at tzionbreslovproject@gmail.com. You will get it. Okay, please. We have that little video. If you want to show the video that we came out with to anybody and ask them also to do $1 a day, even if they're secular, even if they don't know the concept of tzedakah. You know, when you go to a supermarket or CVS, they're going to say, do you want to give a few dollars to the American Cancer Society, right? So even though that's a huge thing, it's amazing. And Bezrat Hashem, one day we should find the cure for cancer. Okay? That's affecting a very small group of people. What's affecting the largest group of people? No. No. Depression. Good. What else? Anxiety. What else? Trauma. What else? Abuse. What else? Low self-esteem. What else? Loneliness. Very good. These things are plaguing everybody. Everybody. And by the way, you know the greatest cause of sickness? Stress. What's the greatest, as I heard my students say this Saturday night, Malava Mocha, what is the greatest natural antidepressant, anti-anxiety? Rabbi Nachman. So let's get him to the world. Okay? Break. Everybody, thank you so much. The rest of the week's schedule is, our teacher on Monday and Wednesday nights, he's taking a hiatus. So we're not having those classes on Monday and Wednesday nights right now. So it's just this class, Tuesday, Likutei Moharan, Thursday, Kumzitz, okay? And everything is on Zoom. And during the day, if you're available during the day at 10:30 a.m., Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have an incredible Likutei Halachot class where it takes the teachings of Likutei Moharan, which are very, very deep and very esoteric, and it brings them down in a very understandable way without losing the depth. Okay, these are the two greatest books in the whole world. I'm just telling you, there's no two books like Likutei Moharan and Likutei Halachot, in my humble opinion, not even in the secular world. Okay, so we happen to be teaching both of them. 10:30 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or the night classes on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And Bezrat Hashem, if we do this $1 a day thing, then I could be more available, and we can do more, and we can teach other teachers, and we can set up a whole entire chain of people who are trying to reveal good and happiness and joy and truth and peace in the world, and Bezrat Hashem bring the Geula. Everybody have a great night.